Hello my juniors, welcome to another blood physiology playlist today. It's your great science tutor Lorenzo and we'll be talking about plasma protein today. So we have talked about introduction to blood, we talked about erythropoiesis, we talked about factors necessary for erythropoiesis formation. So we have talked about all those stuff. So we'll also pilot it to talking about plasma proteins. So make sure you stay. If you are just new, make sure to subscribe and turn on your post notification button so that anytime I drop any video you'll be sure to be notified. So let's jump right into the video. So we'll be starting with the introduction to plasma proteins. So what are plasma proteins? So plasma proteins, as you all know, they are organic molecules. Are you getting now? They are organic molecule part of what? Plasma. Remember I said plasma is divided into what? 91 to 92% water, then 8 to 9% solid. So under the solid you have the organic part of the solid and inorganic part of the solid. So under the organic part of the solid you have plasma proteins. So they are organic molecules in the plasma. So and they're also made up of serum. So I told you how you get serum. The serum is equal to plasma minus fibrinogen. Then I went further to explain to you guys that in serum you have normal plasma. So how do you get plasma? Using your hematocrit value, the experiment whereby we put blood inside a test tube, then we add anticoagulant, a clot. So that is how to separate plasma from blood cells. So but if you want to get the plasma protein, if you want to get the serum part, what do you have to do? You have to not put any anticoagulant. So when you don't add any anticoagulant, it clots, and once it clots, fibrinogen has been converted to fibrin. So you only have two parts of plasma protein, which is the serum albumin and serum globulin. But not that fibrinogen is no more there. Fibrinogen is there, but it's only in small amount. So we want to just go into the plasma protein part of plasma, you get. So in plasma protein you have three. You have the serum albumin, you have serum globulin, but there is no serum fibrinogen, just ordinary fibrinogen. Yeah, now so why is there serum? Because it is plasma minus fibrinogen. So moving forward now, since we have understood that there's only two serum, then we now have the normal value. So what are the normal values? So the total plasma proteins in the body is about 7.3 gram per dl, but it could be in a range which is 6.4 to about 8.3 gram per dl. So just know that is normal, and plasma protein is very important for physiologically in the body. So when the body has less amount of plasma protein, which means it has been urinating, so you have what, hyperalbuminuria, whereby your plasma protein is already coming out of your urine, which is also bad because there will be no onotic pressure or constant onotic pressure that will be kept in the blood, which means it could cause so many effects like edema. So plasma proteins is very what important, you get it now. So there are so many conditions, especially patient with acute renal failure or chronic renal disease, when the plasma protein is low. So it's very important to have a normal value, because plasma protein exerts a constant colloidal oncotic pressure, which is normal throughout in the body, with 25 mmHg. So when the plasma level is low, which means the pressure exerted will be low. So you get it now. So we'll be discussing that later. So the total plasma protein in the body is 7.3, but when you get to the serum albumin, the serum albumin is about 4.7 gram per dl. So why half of the serum albumin is serum globulin, which is about 2.3 gram per dl. So when you when doing a checkup and you check this blood profile and you see your plasma protein level is low, it's also very important for them to check them out, because it could be dangerous. So the last one is what? Fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is very small, 0.3 gram per dl. When you add the serum albumin, serum globulin and fibrinogen, they make up 7.3 gram per dl. So that makes up the total. So whereby the albumin to globulin ratio is 2:1, which means globulin is 2 times albumin. You get it now, because albumin is 4.7, globulin is 2.3. So when it times 2.3 times 2 for globulin, you get albumin. So you get it now. So it should always be like that. When albumin drops, there are so many problems. We're talking about them in the functions, you get it now. So very important. So the next one we're talking about is how to separate the plasma proteins in the hospital. So when somebody donates blood, how can you really, from the blood, after you get your hematocrit value, you separate your plasma and your blood cells? How can you separate the plasma protein component in the plasma? Again, now naturally, first of all, you have to first separate plasma from blood cells. After you separate plasma from blood cells, you now isolate or isolate the plasma protein from the plasma. So how do you do it? You use various methods, which we'll be talking about. Now the first one is the precipitation method. Precipitation method is used to separate albumin from globulin, especially with using sodium sulfate, 22% of sodium sulfate. So the next one is sorting out. So how does sorting out work? Sorting out is used to separate the serum globulin. I said the first one, which is precipitation method. Precipitation method is used to separate albumin from globulin. So when you use sodium sulfide, you can separate albumin from globulin, like take away globulin from there. So now in this sorting out method, you can separate globulin into two different fractions. Are you getting now? So how can you separate them into two different fractions? By using sorting out. So if you separate them, you will get euglobulin, which is the true globulin, and pseudoglobulin, which is the false globulin. So how do you get the euglobulin? First of all, you sort it by full saturation. So how do you do the full saturation? First of all, you add a sodium chloride solution. That is full saturation of sodium chloride, half saturation with what, manganese sulfide, and again 1/3 saturation of what, ammonium or sulfide. So when you use the full saturation of sodium chloride, half saturation of what, magnesium sulfide or sulfate, and you have a quarter or 1/3 saturation of what, ammonium sulfide. Are you getting now? So you get the euglobulin. Are you getting? And you should also know that it's insoluble in water. So how can you get the pseudoglobulin? So pseudoglobulin can be gotten from what, full saturation with the, but this one is full saturation with magnesium sulfide and half saturation with what, ammonium sulfide. So it doesn't need sodium chloride, therefore it is soluble in water. Are you getting me now? So full saturation with sodium chloride is for the euglobulin, while pseudoglobulin full saturation is magnesium sulfide. Don't forget. So we have done precipitation and we have done sorting out. The next one is what, electrophoretic method. Are you getting me now? In electrophoretic method, the plasma proteins are separated depending on their what, electric charges. So the first one is just by precipitation with sodium sulfide. Second one is by sorting out. While the third one is an electrophoretic method, where you separate them by their electric charge. Are you getting me now? So you are checking about the plasma protein that have the highest rate of migration. This is done by using a tensillous apparatus. A tensillous apparatus is used by using what, paper, cellulose, and what, starch block. So when you use paper, cellulose, and starch block in a tensillous apparatus, what happens? You can separate 55% of albumin. Alpha globulin is about 13%, beta globulin is about 14%, gamma globulin is about 11%, and fibrinogen is about 7%. So albumin is about 55%, but globulin can be divided into alpha, beta, and what, gamma by charges. You get it now? So in electrophoretic what method, using a tensillous experiment. So why globulin is the smallest. The next one is ultracentrifugation method. In ultracentrifugation method, you separate the plasma protein by their density. In the Korn's fractional precipitation method, you separate albumin and the fraction of globulin. In electrophoretic method, you can separate them based on their charges. In the sorting out method, you are only concentrating on the serum globulin. While in precipitation method, you can separate albumin from globulin. Are you getting me now? So in the ultracentrifugation method, you are separating them based on their density. Are you getting it? So which one has the highest molecular weight, which one has the lowest molecular weight, which is fibrinogen has the highest molecular weight. You get it now? So fibrinogen has the highest density, followed by globulin, followed by albumin. You get it now? So what are the properties of plasma proteins now? The first one is molecular weight. I told you in the first time that the fibrinogen has more molecular weight than albumin. Why? Because it's from clots, and clots are usually heavy. You get it now? So it's about 400,000 molecular weight, while albumin is very low, 69,000. So but it can change with the literature or with your material textbooks you are using. So the next one is, after molecular weight, is oncotic pressure. In oncotic pressure, what happens now? Oncotic pressure is the pressure that is exerted by our plasma protein in the blood. So when the plasma protein, there are solids that are located in the plasma, the weight they exert into the blood as they move is called the what, colloidal oncotic pressure, and it's about 25 mmHg. And albumin plays 100% role in colloidal what, oncotic pressure. You get it now? So the pressure exerted by what, plasma protein in the blood is called the colloidal oncotic pressure, and it's important to prevent what, excess filtration of what, plasma content into the tissues. So because if without the plasma protein, everything inside the blood will enter into the tissues through the capillary. You get it now? So the next one is the specific gravity. What is the specific gravity of plasma protein? It's about 1.026. You get it now. The last but not the least is the buffer action. So what is the buffer action? Now, acceptance of hydrogen ion is called the buffer action, and the plasma protein has about 1/6 of the total buffer action of the blood. So they use about 1/6 of it. You get it now. For your exam, it's always important for you to know it. What is the origin of plasma protein? Just like the normal erythropoiesis, just like normal white blood cell formation, platelet formation, and everything. First of all, in embryo too, when the child is in the womb, it's formed from the mesenchyme cells. So we call it the mesoblastic stage, where it's formed from the yolk sac, the mesenchyme of the yolk sac. And albumin is first formed, while others comes later. So note it, first of all, mesoblastic stage, whereby it's formed from the mesenchyme of the yolk sac, and albumin comes first. While in adult, it is formed from the reticuloendothelial cells of the liver. But with time, plasma protein are also formed by the spleen, bone marrow, and sometimes other tissues too. While gamma globulin is formed by B lymphocyte, which becomes our antibody. The next one is the function of plasma protein. You get it now. And the one that is much more easier to know is the coagulation, formation of blood clot. So the fibrinogen helps in what? Formation of blood clot. Are you getting now? So in coagulation, what happens? You convert prothrombin to prothrombin, and you convert fibrinogen to fibrin. So fibrin forms the meshwork on the wound, which stays. You get it now. So the next one is defense. So how does it form defense? Remember the gamma globulin. So you have alpha, you have beta, you have gamma globulin. Gamma globulin forms antibodies, and antibodies undergo what? Humoral immunity. You get it now. So very, very important. So when antibodies sees antigens, what happens? They undergo humoral immunity by binding to them and destroying them. And they are useful against diphtheria, typhoid, staphylococcus infection, mumps, you get it, that is parasitic, influenza, measles, hepatitis, rubella, and poliomyelitis. The next one is transport. Naturally, our albumin and alpha globulin and beta, or usually albumin, but also alpha and beta globulin also transport what? Hormones and enzymes. Are you getting now? But alpha and beta globulin are important in transporting metals too. So what are the metals? We have the sodium and co. Sodium, the electrolytes, they are also metals, but they are soluble metals. So like I said, they are also used to maintain what? Osmotic pressure in the blood. Are you getting me now? By preventing filtration of the blood component into the tissues. So they help to maintain it at 25 mmHg always, because when you take them away, it becomes a problem. So concentration of albumin is more than other in exerting pressure. According to Van Stalin principle, he said that the net filtration through the membrane is directly proportional to the what? Capillary hydrostatic pressure difference between the membrane minus the ocotic pressure. Okay, now, so very, very important. Now it plays a role in what? Acid-base regulation or acid-base balance. So plasma protein, particularly albumin, plays an important role in regulating acid-base balance in the blood. Why? Because they act as buffer. You get it now? And I told you that plasma protein exerts at least 1/6 of the buffer in the blood. You get it now? So which is about 15%. They play a role in viscosity. So when you have increase in blood solute in the blood becomes even more thicker and more viscous. So when you have red blood cell, white blood cell, plasma proteins, electrolyte in the blood, the more you have it and you have less water, the blood becomes viscous. So plasma protein contribute to the viscosity of blood because of high pressure it has. Now it plays a role in what? ESR, which is erythrocyte sedimentation rate. Why? Because using globulin and fibrinogen, are you getting me? It accelerates the tendency to form redox formation. What is redox formation? Ability for the red blood cell to form piles of coins. Okay, now piles of coins, and he said that they are not, when they are moving freely inside the blood vessel, they are globular in shape, which is about 7.2 micrometer. Then they don't move freely, they come together, and just like when you stack a coin together, that's how they form. That's what we call redox formation. And they don't gum to the wall of the vessels, except from platelets that do that. Platelet and white blood cell, but red blood cell do not. They just move freely. Now they also play a role in suspension stability of red blood cell. So suspension stability is the ability for blood to move freely without gumming to the wall of the tube, so they move uniformly. Okay, now next is that they play a role in production of trophon substances. Now trophon substances are necessary for nourishment of tissues in culture. Are you getting that? So they are substances that are produced by leukocytes. They play a role in reserve proteins. So during fasting condition, what happens? Because when you eat, what happens? The food is stored as glucose, and the protein are stored, vitamins are distributed, fat are stored, everything is stored. But during fasting condition, what happens? Your body start undergoing what we call gluconeogenesis. So what is gluconeogenesis? Forming glucose from non-carbohydrate sources. First of all, your glycogen will be depleted during fasting. After your glycogen, your body will start breaking your protein. After your body break your protein, your body will start breaking your fat. Your body will start breaking your tissues. A lot of things will be broken down. But here, what does it do? When the protein has been broken down through using transamination, your plasma protein forms as that reserve protein that stays. Are you getting that? So it stays for a particular time to keep your protein level at a barest minimum. You get it now? Because it's very, very important, because plasma protein are split into amino acid by tissue macrophages. You get it now? And amino acid are taken back into the blood and redistributed to form what cellular protein. So they store, when the protein level is low, they can donate themselves. And you get them now, to allow the body to continue its normal function. Now, the last one is the clinical correlation. So I hope it all made sense to you and you have understood everything I've talked about by the plasma protein today. So where we talked about the normal values of plasma proteins, why did they call them serum, and why is fibrinogen not called serum, and I talked about the separation technique of plasma protein. I talked about the properties of plasma protein and everything. So I hope it all made sense to you and you understood it. So if you are just joining me for the first time, so you start from the beginning of the introduction to blood and you walk your way all through to this place, step by step. Don't jump. Get it now? So if you are just new to my channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on your post notification button, so that anytime I drop any video, you'll be sure to be notified. And if you want me to make any video for you, drop down in the comment section. I promise you I'll make that video for you. So I'll be seeing you in my next video on the red blood cell. Bye bye.